Do you still live in Montpellier?
Montpellier, yeah.
Do you still live there? What was the
No,
question?
no, no, no. But do you?
I'm curious if you are you familiar with a theater group called Bread and Puppet Theater?
Oh, I know Peter Schumann.
Theater.
Yeah.
So are you familiar with their museum and their?
Oh yeah,
food
sure.
and their
Well, for anybody else, there is a theater group, a theater, very much political theater group that was started, let's see, it must be 30-some years ago by a man who came from Germany. His name is Peter Schumann. He lived first in New York, in Brooklyn area in New York, and then he moved to Vermont. And he moved to Vermont the same year that I moved to Vermont. You see. And he, I moved to Vermont to teach at a college, and that teaching is the way I try to survive. So there was a college in Vermont called Goddard College, and he came to that college to enlist the students in this puppet theater that he has, which I think is a really, I mean, it's not just he, they create gigantic 30-foot puppets, I mean, really, really big puppets. And there are always political messages of some sort. And he enlists the help of a lot of people. So they may have 10 birds that they create out of paper or paper kind of material that might be 40 feet long. Well, how do you keep those bird wings up? You have somebody at one end on one stick and somebody another, you know, and so, and he himself, Peter, looks like he dresses in Uncle Sam, you know, on stilts, and every year up until a few years ago they had the bread and puppet circus and the bread and puppet pageants, and that was a day where they performed for free for audiences all over the world, and it was all over the world. They bought a gravel pit, which had this hole in it, and people would sit on the edges on the hillside, and they'd bring lunch and dinner and their whole family, and they would be treated to this circus in the afternoon, you know. And the circus was all of these performers dressed in different animals, you know, and there would be story involved with it, you know, like there was the lion trainer that couldn't train the lions, you know, and the afternoon performance was mainly for kids, and they just loved it. The evening performance was amazing because it always involved, I mentioned birds, or something like birds that would swoop down from the hillside down into this pit, and they'd always have some sort of burning fire structure that in the darkness it was just incredible. It was famous for many years. I should I'm advertising. He doesn't mind.
So they've played in LA once for an LA festival, and I think the early '90s. It's the one time I've ever seen them. I still have the Bread and Puppet Manifesto.
They are in one of my films. They are the last 8-minute section. But anyway, so they did performances every year. They did this Bread and Puppet circus and Bread and Puppet the pageant, and it got so popular. Television stations from around the world came and recorded, and there were thousands of people. I mean, it was a pretty amazing thing. Then things happened that he didn't like. People began to see, well, if I sold ice cream and I sold candy and other things, and I had a concession here, and then there was another concession there and another one, and people began to take advantage of what was free. Now, Bread and Puppet, bread in Bread and Puppet, Peter would, during those performances, he would bake bread and give it out free to everybody. So it was in my mind, a wonderful experience, a sharing experience. But after a while, because it became so popular and it became famous, people came and it got into drinking, and it got into, there was a fight, two people, one got killed, and he said, you know, it's gone too far, and I'm not going to do it any longer. Now, he does have he does the presentation in his barn. He still does do that, but he doesn't do that pageant that he used to do every year. Boy, that's so long. I'll have to tell him, maybe he'll give me some.
Well, they're fading out the sidelights. They might want us to depart in a moment.
Okay.
But let's see if there's any final questions from anybody here, please. So just a final thought on Inalienable, because to me it's pretty different from all the other pieces, and obviously it's timely in the moment. I'm not. But what inspired? I mean, were you just inspired to start taking pictures of bumper stickers and then went from there?
I have to admit, I didn't like the administration, our government, and so this goes back 2.5 years. And I thought that maybe I would take pictures, and I don't know exactly how to use it. You know, maybe do a little booklet of all of this, and I don't know how, but that's what I did 2.5 years ago. Started off 2.5 years ago, and maybe a month or so before the election, the recent one, national election, I didn't want to let it go after having spent all of this energy. I wanted to put something together, and so that's what I did. There was no other intention than that. And you asked to try to show films that I was not showing at Echo Park, and most of the I have 5 very long films, and that would take up a whole program, and they're older. So I thought, well, what can I do? And I thought, okay, here's this film, Inalienable, which is not what I would normally show, because it's so blatantly just a series of shots of bumper stickers. That's why it got in there. Sorry.
Yeah. I no need to apologize. Good range. All right. Any other final thoughts? No. Well, thank you very much for coming out tonight.